Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first Gen AI news briefing of June. I am David Delalo, and I'm here with a handful of our analysts. And as we always do, we will go through several articles that we have pulled over the weekend, discuss whether they are optional, important, or essential for the AI leader to read. We have several good ones as usual, although I have a feeling we're going to rate several optional as well. We have a nice article by a bunch of people, researchers, consultants, etc., that was written for O'Reilly. Gives some early advice on how to train and fine tune your LLM system. We've got a couple of articles that'll talk about content creation, some new tools for creating videos, and a really interesting business model for one of them that I actually did sign up for the alpha for, and a few more. So let's go ahead and dive in. Ankaj, kick us off. I do not see your screen. Here we go.
Yeah. So thanks, David. The first one that we have for today comes from Dell. So Dell's recent earnings have revealed sluggish enterprise AI adoption. So while their earnings have been good, but not to the expectations of the market, and their stock price is down, and the article discusses a few reasons why there is a sluggish enterprise AI adoption.
Yes, and I suspect those reasons are why you pulled this article. Dell's earnings themselves are probably not something we would cover. Luda, what do you think about this one?
Yes, it's an interesting article. I rate it as optional. It talks about what's happening in the AI world, but with the lens of Dell's strategy. Remember, Dell is betting on the fact that the data is all in your enterprise, and you probably don't want to put it in the cloud. And so their bet is that people will come to them versus put their data and AI applications in the cloud. And this is what they bet when originally the cloud wars were happening back and forth, right? And I mean, they won and they lost, right? Most of the people still went to cloud, but there were some that stayed put. So the similar thing is happening right now. And yeah, it's going slow. So this is not surprising. And then the article goes through and talks about various other things that are happening in the applications of AI. And granted, this is very complex and it takes time to actually put an application together at scale. And the article highlights it. But in general, I think it's optional for our reader.
All right, thank you. One optional rating. Any other ratings on this, or just
this is? I think it's definitely optional. I'm tired of these articles. Just because Dell, you screwed up and didn't estimate well, don't come back and tell us that the market's smaller. We saw the same thing in Wall Street Journal. It's like we forgot 30 years of enterprise software, Luda. This stuff takes a while. Last year, big companies budgeted for recession. They found $50,000 to a proof of concept. Only this year did they start applying budgets. We've seen all over the place here, but they have 50 or 80 different projects. It's a huge political hot potato because someone's budget's getting doubled and other people are losing budget here. And it's not clear exactly what to do. So BCG and Deloitte and all these enterprise companies thought last year was going to be $5 and $10 million SAP type implementations. Estimates were wrong. The market's maturing just as we expect.
Right, but I mean, the hype is high, right? So they kind of have to estimate higher. So the pressure is on, and they estimate, and then they fall flat. So I mean, this is, we see it all the time, right? This is not news.
And who else is doing the estimating, Adam? It's all the VC-backed companies who are estimating, hey, we're going to do enterprise AI and get all the stuff here. But I mean, I go back to, we didn't have strikes in the first 6 months of all these other digital transformations we did last year. This thing is humming along, and these articles are deep back pocket optional.
Yeah, I'm curious though, what do you think about their strategy? Do you think that companies are going to want to do more on premise because they want to bring the AI, close to where the data is? Or do you think they're missing the mark again, just like they did with their cloud strategy?
Go ahead, Adam. I see you raise your head.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely going to be edge computing with AI, but it's going to be on people's devices. I don't think it's going to be at the core of the network. I think at least, maybe it's also because of where I sit in enterprise, but most people have a cloud partner. Most people, like, it's not that you don't trust your data with anyone. You trust your data with someone, generally speaking. And I think we're going to see more of that. Probably, if not just for that reason alone, but because of how quickly this stuff is changing. Like, if you're going to make a massive capital investment in infrastructure, 6 months from now, that stuff's going to be going obsolete already. I would be really concerned about making big bets on hardware at this point in the AI race.
And also, this whole idea that somehow on-premise is more secure is 1990s thinking. We've got security is based on whoever's running the stuff here. And in my experience, on-premise versus cloud is usually a cost issue or a staffing issue. And this idea that suddenly, because something's deemed important, we now have to go on-premise is naive, in my view.
It may be, the argument might be latency, and I don't know, I can't support it with data, but I think it might be access to huge amount of data, and operationally might be better when you have all the data close. I don't know, but this might be an argument this time.
Better being cheaper, you mean, or less latency?
Latency, the speed of the access.
Speed of response, because these models are quite significant, and on the cloud there is a transaction speed, right, that takes a little bit out of each response. So having the data close might be the argument, but I agree with you, it's not now, because now we don't know what will actually eventually happen. What would the requirement of a large application look like? So it's just changing so fast. Adam,
and Luda, in your case, you're assuming there that the application is premise and the large data sets in the cloud.
Correct.
If the application's in the cloud, the data set can be in the cloud.
I think we'll see more on the optimization of the latency, that we are not there yet.
All right, so optional but great discussion on Dell's strategy.
Amanda, I think this is the first article on a Sunday that was optional. We beat the living hell out of it. This might be I did. The new high water mark for
Well, it's good to think about the strategy part of it. We know that the earnings call was, not the highlight here, but I think we managed to make something out of nothing, which is not a bad thing. So here we go. Next article, Ankaj.
So the next one talks about Copilot plus PCs and talks about some of different aspects of these.
Yeah, so I'll kick us off on this one. This article, the title, of course, is playing off the concept of shadow IT, which refers to, using IT systems or building them without approval in pockets of the organization. And it's talking about the forthcoming AI-equipped PCs, which will be able to do AI computation without having to connect to the internet. And it makes the argument that is going to create more security issues, more shadow use. The shadow cyborgs are us, any of us that would be using this and not letting our leaders know exactly how we're using it. I don't think it really makes an effective argument. I'm giving this an optional. I think a lot of the things that they highlight are things that organizations are already worried about, because we all have PCs and we don't have to do everything on the internet. And we know most organizations, large ones anyway, are doing a lot of monitoring and a lot of gating of the functionality that we could use. So I gave this one an optional, but I will open the floor to others to disagree, or let me know if there's any nuggets that you pulled out of this one. What'd you think, Paul?
It's a nothing burger. Monday news tend to flow. So we got burgers are out today.
Yeah. Anybody else have thoughts on this one?
I just find it interesting, this whole cyborg phenomena again. And it's like, it's such a terrible thing if employees are using it. I feel like if your employees are in the dark and have no idea about this stuff, that's an issue in a digital world. That's my opinion. So, but I just think we keep hearing about this, and it's like beating a dead horse on how using Gen AI and AI is cheating, and now we're a cyborg. I just spoke on that whenever I spoke about a month ago about this whole phenomenon, about how this stuff is cheating and how it's taking away our creativity and how it's terrible, the misconceptions behind it. So here's another article that's saying, oh no, people are secretly going to be using this stuff. It just like, when's it going to end is my thoughts.
I think we need to find better. Let me try to be more positive. I think the industry would be better if we get away from such emotional language that hypes, AI agents, cyborgs. These are auto-generated tasks, AI-generated task, auto task or something. I mean, and they occur already today in a deterministic world all the time in our computer and everything else. All we're talking about is the edge of it and a little more probabilistic element to it. So
I think there should be more articles about shame on you, the leaders of the enterprise, for allowing that those people who are using it on their own volition. It's like really shameful that they haven't thought through it. They haven't put these strategies in place. They haven't allowed this to happen. It's just really shameful in this current day and age. We're into second year. They should have thought of it,
All right.
If your standard operating environment is a Copilot Plus PC, you better be expecting your employees to use AI with it. Like, come on.
Why did you buy it in the first place, right?
Exactly. And if you bought it, why don't you put trainings in place and then embrace those people who are using it? Come on.
I hear you. Okay. Nothing burger optional on this one. We'll move right along. What do we have next?
So next article talks about experience of a few researchers and consultants in terms of building with LLMs in the last year.
Yes. So lots of interesting nuggets here, I thought. But Amanda, I signed this super long article to you to lead us off. So tell us what you think.
Yeah, so I think that's part of it, David. So I rated this optional. Not that I'm saying there's nothing important in here at all, but again, for the leader, I think it's kind of, I don't want to call this a deep dive by any means, but it's long. So I don't know if they're going to have the time to really skim through this. I think it's interesting. There's a variety of backgrounds, but I don't necessarily think there's anything in here that screams out to me that's groundbreaking. There is a chart about recall. So just basically looking at the model's output and how often there's correct references and things like that. So it's comparing some models. There is that chart in there. But other than that, again, I don't know if there's anything that really jumps out to me. It just really talks about different experiences, tactical overview, some prompting techniques, talks about RAG, some benefits and methods, things like that. So again, I don't think it's terrible information, but I just think it's long for a reader. So I'm going to rate it optional.
Okay, I'm going to play the role of John and remind us all that those that read a lot tend to be the billionaires. So we don't want to restrict it for length, but we can restrict it for content. Anybody else have any other thoughts? Optional from... Go ahead, Dita.
I really think that this is an important article. It is long, and so use ChatGPT to summarize it. Come on, they can do it. The thing about it that struck me is really it's sort of lessons learned, right? We've implemented so many models, we've looked at this, and we step back and we say, pay attention to prompts in this manner. Do this in this. RAG is useful versus this. This is fine-tuning. This is better this way. It's really a lot of lessons learned. I think it is a good article summarizing those lessons learned. The leader might not slug through it all, but just looking at what's in it and recommending to their for their teams to look at it closely and see whether they are reflecting on these best practices in their work. I think it's important.
Yeah. Ankash had a comment. Ankash, you want to share?
Sure, Paul. So I think, as Luda mentioned, so all the experiences that they have shared around implementing those things, those are something that a leader can maybe share with their team if they are not sort of using it directly. But I think very important lessons to consider when you go about implementing your own models.
I'll make the case for important only because the AI leader is inundated with sales pitches and vendors and overclaims. None of their people know what's going on. They are desperate. This is water in the desert on lessons. Now, I think they're still missing a lot of lessons about total cost of ownership and open and closed source and model monitoring in a deterministic world, but there's some good ones in there. And, and I think a lot of it is around, can you use prompt, you have to fine tuning, can you use LLM as a judge. So Luda and Ankash, I'm right with you. I think this is important. I skimmed it in 5 minutes and had a couple good nuggets. And I think I've met with 6 companies and last week, and they are overwhelmed, but they cannot, their head's spinning because every single vendor and consultant is claiming everything through the roof here.
Yeah, I'm going to make the argument for essential. I would like to elevate this to essential. We see so many articles that give a lot of high level advice on what to do. And I feel like this one gets granular just enough, right? Not so technical and in the weeds that it goes beyond what you may need to know. I think it gives you exactly what you need to know when you're thinking about customizing your own model, putting a RAG system in place. I would like to argue that this one's essential. And I may put the gavel down over the rest of you. Yeah. Adam, what did you think?
I'll jump in. So what I did notice at the very end of the preamble, or the first few paragraphs, is the word tactical in big bold letters. And just before it actually says, look for the operational strategic sessions coming in the next few weeks. So they're going to be writing a couple of more articles. I think the strategic and the operational sections will potentially be essential. I think what I really liked about this is that these are real people who are really using this thing. And we're getting the frontline perspective on what really people need to be learning about it. But at the same time, I think you need to throw it through the robot and get it summarized, because the article was basically written by a bunch of people all throwing their good ideas together, and someone just wrote it all down, right? And it reads like that. So I think if you throw it through if you throw it through the robot and just sort of get the summaries and get the key points out of it, I could consider it important for the AI leader. I think it's essential for people in their team that are responsible for the tactical execution. But this one, I would say, is important for the leader, not essential. Probably the operational and quite likely the strategic sections to follow, I will be giving an essential rating.
How could you give it to your team without actually reading the whole article?
No, that's what important means. That means make time to read this when you can find the time.
When you can find the time. All right. There's such a majority of important. I will go with the democratic approach today and not go with essential, as I feel. We'll go with important on this one. I definitely enjoyed it. What do we have next, Ankash?
Next one comes from Sony Pictures. So they are using AI to cut film costs.
Yes. So I will also note on this one, this is a mashup. This is actually one of the pages that Perplexity creates. So we talked about last week this new functionality where you could make one of these pages that yourself. They're doing something smart here. I actually got this from their newsletter. So they're now putting their newsletter together using their own functionality of the creating your own page. So this actually has a summary and cites several different articles throughout it, although the one on Sony is kind of the highlight of the bunch. So I'm loving this direction from Perplexity. I know I'm going off script here in terms of the actual article itself, but I just think that they're recreating search, which I think is needed if you're going to put generative AI inside, as opposed to trying to kind of slap it into search as we know it. But I will stop there and let Luda go ahead and tell us what she thought about the actual article.
The actual article is actually a nothing burger, optional. There's nothing new here except for the fight is on. There's unions. There's a lot of trial and of content being created with AI. So it's not clear how this will transpire, but there's no news here, I don't think. So optional for me.
Okay, optional news. Any disagreement? I see the burger sort of coming into view from Paul.
What's that thing when you go to a restaurant, you get like a whole plate of sliders? This is a slider day, except for one article.
All right. We're going optional. We're going on to the next one.
So the next one talks about Showrunner. So it's been touted as Netflix of AI, but it lets viewers be the TV show creators, so you can get involved, select different scenarios in the TV show, and work with it.
Yeah, so I'll kick off this one. I'm going to say important, which I know you probably think I'm crazy because this is a tool for a consumer, right? To be able to interact with content, and you can actually create your own episode. So the way that they're setting this platform up, you can't just submit anything on any topic. They are creating a structure. I think they're starting off with 7 different shows, and you can watch the show and you can contribute to the show. It's all animation, kind of South Parky type of animation. That's actually there was a video that they created last year that went viral, where they took South Park and made their own series episode from it. What I like and why I say that this is important is because this is the type of innovation that I think we're going to see, and we're just scratching the surface. Right now, we're still seeing a lot of use AI on the old way that we did things. This is kind of a very new concept that they're creating here, where you can actually contribute. It's early, right? And I had to sign up for access. I'm not sure if anybody can use it yet. I think there's an alpha and maybe limited people. They are releasing some of the series. One of them's called Exit Valley, by the way. Of course, I watched that because the satire on everything that's going on in tech, and I'm doing something similar with my comic. But it's a really quick article, and I just want to flag it as important as inspiration for the AI leader of really trying to rethink business models and how they can use AI to do that. I have a feeling I'm going to get some disagreement, so I'll open up the floor.
I agree with you, David. I still think this one's better than the one I had, because I just don't think the leader's going to sift through all that information without using ChatGPT. But I think this is an interesting breakthrough. So I think they should be aware of stuff like this. So I agree with you, but I think, yeah, people might battle us, but just for that simple reason, I agree with you.
Why is it important for a leader as an inspiration? But this inspiration, guys, it's not news. It has been announced some time ago, for a year long, right? This is just slowly getting out there. The other question I have about this whole concept is the legality of it, right? If I see an episode and I actually publish a sequel to it per se, yeah, who owns the right to that, right? I think it's very murky, and I don't know whether it would survive. And also the technology, by its own admission at the end of the article, is such that you can do it just a little bit. It's not ready for like a real sequel. So
isn't that all Gen AI though, Luda? I think it's all in a gray area, right?
Right.
Who has the rights to it?
Right. So I don't know whether this will survive. The interesting thing is you can take the visual content and create more visual content, but we know that, and I don't know. So that's why I think it's optional in my mind. But I respectfully hear what you're saying.
I appreciate the respect and I appreciate your opinion. I guess I think about social media, right? And the creator economy. It's still huge. People love contributing, and people are funny. People have good ideas, and these tools are giving you more license and more ability to be able to do that. I can see this getting extremely popular, which again, I know has nothing to do with the AI leader. I'm simply putting it out as inspiration for them. I've got one vote of support, one against. Anybody else?
I mean, it almost feels like a research paper to me, right? This thing isn't available. It's a cool idea. To Luda's point, the concept has been around for a year. The fact is they're just making 10 more episodes available now. So I was definitely on the optional side of the camp as well.
Paul will have to break the tie.
Yeah, I think it's optional. I mean, for me, to me, when we get a port and I'm walking figuratively down the hall, and on the other side is walking to me the AI leader who's rushing to a meeting, and I've got a figurative article. I say, Bill, you need to read this. And if I give him 2 or 3 articles, it's not worth his time. He's not going to listen to me anymore. And so I have it optional.
I would note, though, important is read it when you have time. We're not marking this urgent, but I hear the arguments against, and I am again outnumbered, so I will go with the majority. I'm feeling very democratic today. We'll go optional on this one.
Yeah, we have 2 more articles.
Swing the gavel, David.
Yeah, go.
Yeah. So the next one is a research paper which talks about how using better data at scale provides better results with a lot of less data.
All right, Amanda, you're kicking us off on this one.
Yeah, so I think I have the same sentiments as the other one I had. So there's a lot of information in here. There is good information. But again, it says right at the beginning, 45 minutes to read it. I just don't think our leaders are going to take the time to read this. So for me to recommend it and then have them say, oh, I just don't have the time for this. But I think it's interesting just to read a little bit about this FineWeb and FineWeb EDU in there. It talks about like data set quality, some data sourcing, processing at scale. There's some different, again, some interesting pieces of information in here. But I don't know that I'd say it's full on completely technical. I think it could be digestible. So I wouldn't want to turn it away for that and just say it's just way too technical. There's no way you'd understand a sentence in here. But again, I think for me, this is more optional.
All right, one vote for optional. Adam, what did you think about the article and this data cleansing technique that they've talked about here?
I'm with Amanda on this one. I think she actually pretty accurately summarized it. The end of the day, they're creating a tool for the research community, and that's important. And having more accessibility to train high quality models from an open data set is important. In terms of this piece of news, though, I don't think it's important news.
I agree, but it gives a little lens into how the models behave when they're being trained and what data they use. So creates more transparency. So this is good to note in our newsletter, but I think it's optional.
All right, optional it is. Let's go to our final article of the day.
So this last one from Singapore government talks about the governance framework that they have laid out for Gen AI model implementations.
All right, last article is yours, Luda.
I'm on essential camp on this one.
Ooh.
Yeah. So here's the reason, right? There's a lot of struggling on the enterprise leaders' part of how do I put the tenets in place on security, transparency, how do I use AI? And there are not that many cohesive frameworks out there that you can essentially adopt. And this one is one of them. It's from Singapore. Singapore, as you know, led that field in trying to figure out what the framework should be. They're good at frameworks. I've been there for 5 years. I tell you from experience. So I really think if you haven't done it, you can take this and maybe adjust it a little bit, but put it as a framework for your enterprise. And in that sense, I think essential.
All right. Are we going to end the morning with an essential piece? What do you think, Adam?
Luda makes a great point. I asked the robot, I put it as optional. At the moment, the European Union, the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, China, Australia have all launched AI ethics frameworks. And a lot of them do have some very specific detailed frameworks. I think there's already playbooks out there. It's great that they're doing that. I don't think this is really Singapore being a leader or pushing the envelope in that regard. So I thought it's good that they're doing it, but it was optional news for me.
Okay, Paul.
Optional. Optional.
Luda, man, you just got told right.
I thought this is pretty crisp when I looked at it. I don't know which one I would adopt. I would seriously consider this one. That's why I rated it as essential. But I understand that this is yet another one.
You've definitely talked me up to important, Luda.
Well,
don't get me wrong. You make a really good point.
Yeah, I like the point that it's not the fact that Singapore created this framework, as you know, many frameworks out there, but I agree that I think it is a nice summary, and we haven't posted one of these types of articles for a while. I think it's a nice reminder. It's a nice framework. We're going to put it as important. All right. Where did we land today? Ankaz, do you have our final summary?
Yes, David, coming up.
Okay. We have two importance. We have the article from our friends that wrote a piece for O'Reilly that's got some nice detail on how to really go ahead and build your LLMs. And we just rated one important so that we can show you a framework that you might be able to use in your own organization. That will wrap us up today. Paul, Learning Lab tonight.
We actually have our showcase person. So Adam, you want to share what you're going to be talking about tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. From memory, I'm working on the slide deck still at 10 p.m. at night. I got 11 hours. It's going to be about how you can streamline your workflow using ChatGPT and generative AI. So we're going to be looking at how you can both get assistance, augmentation, as well as automation out of the tool. And the use case is GAI Insights and the ratings page, and how I've been getting the workflow from the email that comes out daily to that actual page on the site where you can see all the ratings and the rationale.
All right, very cool. Join us tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter, which you can find in the link that we've provided on the social tiles that probably brought you into this show. And visit us on YouTube and hit that subscribe button. Have a great day, everybody. We will see you tomorrow.